Okay.
All right, we ready to get started? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here to present at this first Women Leading Government Conference in Delaware. I'm Sean O'Neill, and I'm a policy scientist at the University of Delaware Institute for Public Administration. I'm also the vice president of the state chapter of the American Planning Association, and I'm happy to be moderating this presentation today with our great speakers, Savannah Edwards and Jill Oliver. So the presentation today is going to be focusing on Ocean View's recent comprehensive plan update, which won a national award from the American Planning Association's Small Town and Rural Planning Division for excellence in small town and rural planning. As the presentation will outline, Ocean View went above and beyond the norm in their public engagement efforts for the plan to get comprehensive and meaningful public feedback during the planning process. Savannah and Jill are going to show how they planned their public engagement efforts, what they did, and why it was so successful. Needless to say, as the manager of IPA's local government training program and a member of the Delaware APA Executive Committee, I've been very happy to see the effort that was put into making this plan and the great plan that resulted from all this effort. But a bit about the three of us presenters before we get started today. First, Jill Oliver has worked with the town of Ocean View for 10 years. During her tenure with the town, Jill has worked in code enforcement, licensing, permitting, and most recently in planning. As the town's planner, Jill reviews comments on all planning and zoning matters, schedules and prepares documents for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, manages the town's social media pages, which are worth checking out if you're interested, and assists the town manager with event planning. Jill also enjoys photography and spending time exploring southern Delaware with her husband and her little adventurer, her 4-year-old son, Jake. So thanks, Jill. And Savannah Edwards is an associate planner with the Rossi Group. Rossi Group is a women-owned consulting firm providing a diverse level of services, including transportation planning and engineering, civil engineering, water resources engineering, landscape architecture, environmental services, utility design and coordination, and construction management and inspection services. Savannah provides long-range land use and transportation planning guidance to a range of clients in Delaware and Maryland. Prior to joining Rossi Group, she served as a planner in a similar capacity with consulting firm AECOM. Savannah is also an IPA graduate, which we're proud to say. And in 2017, she graduated from Biden School's MPA program and was a fellow with IPA. She's continued to work with IPA by helping us teach our land use administration course the last few years with Anne-Marie Townsend. So thanks to Savannah. And as for myself, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a policy scientist at the University of Delaware IPA, which means I work as a project manager for many of our funded projects, such as comprehensive plans and research contracts with state agencies such as DelDOT, primarily on planning-focused projects. I've been working in planning, zoning, and real estate for almost 20 years now, with experience at the state, county, and local level, as well as private sector and real estate development and consulting companies similar to AECOM and the Rossi Group. I've been at IPA for about 5 years now, and immediately prior to moving to IPA, I was a senior planner with the Chester County, Pennsylvania Planning Commission. So before I hand it over to Savannah for the presentation, I also just wanted to emphasize to everyone that if you have questions, please feel free to ask them throughout the presentation in the question and answers box, which I think you should see on the right side of your screen. And then if you have any other thoughts or questions, please type those into the room chat. So with that, I'll hand it over to Savannah.
Thank you, Sean. As he just iterated, ask questions. Jill and I both like to be interrupted and to have conversation as we go through this. If not, we've got a few at the end that we can help facilitate some conversation. But anything that we can do today to help you bring something back to your own community, that's really what we're here for. So as Sean said, we're going to go into our inclusive and engaging planning process that we use to complete the comp plan update for the town of Ocean View. In particular, we're going to highlight 3 different components, and that's first, strategies for engaging different age groups. Second, strategies for dealing with a constricted budget. And then third, strategies to instill early elected official buy-in. These were 3 things that were really unique to this process and really great outcomes for us as we look back on it. So first, I just wanted to give some of you who may not be familiar with it an overview of comprehensive planning within Delaware. I believe it's Title 22 that enables municipalities to actually create a comprehensive plan. And if you have a planning commission within your government, that's typically the body that is responsible for producing a comprehensive plan. Some places choose to do it in-house with their own staff. Other places choose to go out to a consultant or have another company help them through the process, guide it, provide support and staffing. The State Planning Commission, State Office of State Planning Coordination, OSPC, is responsible for outlining what the contents of a comprehensive plan should be. And within Delaware, there's actually different requirements if you have a town with a population less than 2,000 people versus a town with more than 2,000 people. Because of that population break, you need a little bit more detail about your strategies, some more specific planning and goals laid out for your town. Overall, a comprehensive plan is really how you want your town or city to develop over the next 10 years. It's that big picture idea of what the people want your community to look like. And then eventually you're supposed to bring your zoning code and subdivision code into compliance with this long-term planning document. The process typically includes working with the staff to develop the narrative, the background, updating data and information on your city to really set the stage for that story. And then the comprehensive plan is adopted by a local body and submitted to the state for the governor's approval. In that process, it goes through a review of all state agencies through what they call PLUS. And the map that's actually shown on this slide is something produced through OSPC as well. And that coordinates with the PLUS process. All of this is to ensure that municipalities are working with the different state agencies. So it creates a really streamlined process for talking to DelDOT, DNREC, the Department of Agriculture, DEMA, all at the same time. They're able to review your document, provide feedback, and it really creates a coordinated system for development and planning. In our particular process, we chose to do a pre-plus interview as well as the plus at the end. Pre-plus really allows you to know what those state agencies are looking for up front. So now Jill's going to talk a little bit more about the particulars of Ocean View.
Yeah, so Ocean View, we're a small town in Sussex County, Delaware. We're about 1 mile from the Atlantic Ocean. So as you can imagine, we have sort of an interesting dynamic where we have full-time residents, but in the summertime, our population swells. Some of you might have been stuck in traffic here at Ocean View on Route 26, passing from Millville through Ocean View on your way to Bethany. We have a what we call the Old Town, a historic district, a very passionate historical society who we enjoy supporting, a top-notch police force who actually just yesterday announced their national accreditation. We pride ourselves on our finance department. They have just received top-notch audits lately. We love our events here in Ocean View. And let's see. So you'll see on the screen the population. With the last update, we were just at like the 1,800 mark. So this 2020, we knew that was going to push us over to that 2,000 mark. It's interesting because right before we started this process, 6 months, I believe, or so, we had a new planning director that was hired. That's Ken Simino, my supervisor. And of course, Carol Houck, the town manager, was hired, I want to say about 2 months before we kicked off this process. So it was very interesting to have a totally new administration with totally new energy. And the timing of this could have been, it was interesting because it could have been a burden to have new people come on board and then have to face this right away. But the energy that they brought to this process to want to dive right in and to get this right was really phenomenal. So the timing ended up being a gift to us. And that's how we approached it as we moved forward.
And Jill brought up a great point about the population. Technically, for when we started the update, it was in 2019. They were held to 2010 census data for requirement standards. So they didn't have to go above and beyond, but the town administration knew that for the time frame that this plan would be addressing, they would be in that 2,000 plus population category. And really, to do sound planning, they wanted to go above and beyond and do the extra. So some of the other just quick facts about Ocean View to again give you the idea of what that town is like. A median household income of $85,000, so it is above the average. Median property values are also above your national average, $346,000. The employed population, according to this, about 1,000 versus a 2019 population of 2,200. So you can see that based on these statistics, at least half of the population is unemployed. Further, you can recognize the median age, 59.4. It's a little bit of an older population. And as Jill had alluded to before, very transient. A lot of people may have started buying seasonal homes, but have chosen now to retire there. Here's a map of Ocean View. We highlighted some of the features in town, things that draw people out, that they really appreciate. The Assawoman Canal has great natural features along it, trails that allow people to enjoy those amenities. John West Park is in the center of town and next to the historic town hall. They have a lot of events there all summer long. There's always something exciting going on at John West Park. And even into the fall, I know they've been carrying on community events.
Every season.
Yeah, Christmas, everything. Route 26 is really the business corridor that runs through town. A number of goods and services, different shops, a little bit denser than the rest of town. Town administrative complex and where town hall offices are now has moved out to this area, which is next to one of the larger developments, Bear Trap Dunes, which really almost, not quite doubled the size, but really added a lot to Ocean View. Is there anything you'd like to add on this, Jill?
Yeah, just to point out that, I mean, obviously our boundary is super wonky there, as you can see. But we're getting to the point now, and some of the goals that we address with this plan is we're getting pretty close to being built out. For years, especially over the last 10 years, we've just been sort of issuing building permits nonstop. So now some of what we're dealing with is just the last little finishing pieces to some of those residential plan communities. And then looking ahead to the corridor along 26, some new exciting things happening there. For example, grand opening of Sodell Concepts Ocean View Brewing Company. That's going to be Thursday evening. So some exciting things happening in our business district, and looking ahead to see what we can do to keep that going and revitalized and attract top-notch businesses and have people want to stay in Ocean View, shop here, eat here, versus heading towards Bethany or Rehoboth necessarily. So it's an exciting time for us here in Ocean View. Okay. So as I just mentioned, we've been facing years of sort of explosive growth. And now with COVID, that's kicked up even more, it seems. A lot of the unimproved lots that have been around forever are suddenly being snatched up, and people are buying them because they realize that now you can work from pretty much anywhere. So why not work close to the beach? But as we approached this plan, we were kind of in a little bit of an identity crisis, you could say. We were a town that was just building and building. People were moving here, buying vacation homes, but we were still largely a town that people just passed through on their way to the beach. So again, some of the challenges of that are, trying to decide who do we want to be in the coming years, and what is going to make us special, what is going to set us apart. So a lot of what we looked at when we sat down to look at our goals and our visions was to focus on becoming a more complete community. And some of the things you see on your screen are, what we focused on to try to determine who we want to be. If you look at our town seal, our motto is we're a place to come home to. So we played along with that for the comp plan. And then we came up with the tagline, welcoming you home yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So ultimately, that is the goal. We want to be a place that you can come home to, a place you want to visit, a place you want to stay, a place to enjoy, a place to remember. So all of that sort of guided this process. And we were lucky to have Savannah and our consultant team come on. They easily matched our energy, which no small feat, really. So mad props to Savannah on that one. So yeah, we wanted to figure out who we are and what we wanted to be in the coming years. And this was the beginning of it.
So yeah, those goals, we had to get really specific and refined. As I said before, it's a 10-year plan for how your town wants to develop. It is big picture, but you still need to make goals that are accomplishable and measurable. For example, like the ones listed on here, increasing the town's multimodal transportation offerings. For example, as we get throughout this, we'll see that the town has already made progress in measurable ways on that. So once we sat down with administration and really defined what the overarching theme of this plan was going to be, we worked with them to identify some goals. Then we outlined this public engagement strategy. As Jill said, there was new administration in town, and a lot of them really wanted to get a feel for what the residents were thinking and what they wanted. They knew there were a lot of new people to town, but did they like the way it was where they used to live? Do they like where it is where they are now? Do they want some kind of mix in between that? And in which ways? We really needed to get a temperature for that. So in November 2018 is when we started the planning process. March 2020 is when the plan was finally adopted by council. Help give you guys an idea of when you're updating your own comprehensive plans, what kind of timeline worked for us. I think at times we felt that maybe it was a little crunched, but I think that really helped us actually to keep the momentum going throughout it. There was no really faltering or letting things just fall to the wayside. We were constantly in communication. So, like I said, we had worked on those goals and strategies really between November to April 2019. So we had a good handle on what we were taking out to the community and getting initial feedback on. In April 2019, we chose town election day to hold our public workshop. We had it right behind where the elections were going on, X amount of feet away. We were not trying to influence any decisions or, get involved with what they were doing, stay out of the way of the counters and the runners. But it helped so that everyone who was voting and everyone who was out there trying to talk to people, get their name out there, shake hands with folks before they were maybe going in for a vote, they stuck around and they were interested in the conversations that were going on outside. So it was a really great opportunity for us to take advantage of. After we got that initial feedback that we're going to show you guys some posters of later, then we worked in a community survey, and that was something that we created mailers for. We had a postcard that we put out physically at some of the businesses around town. And then we also put up election type signs with QR codes. And people could snap that QR code and take this more detailed survey online at their own leisure. We also, I think, had some paper copies, right, Jill, that we handed out at like movie nights and at town hall in case people needed that for accessibility.
Yes.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So we made sure that we had, a lot of different ways to get that feedback, kept it open for at least a month and a half, gave people time. And a lot of the feedback that we got on election day, people were looking to follow up after those conversations. So they knew this was coming already. Then after June, we really worked on putting together the document, getting a first draft, and refining what the actual strategies would be for each of those chapters, like transportation. In October 2019, we then took that draft and the strategies, the final kind of things that we were looking for feedback on, like terminology, to our Cops and Goblins public workshop. Cops and Goblins is an event that every year the town of Ocean View hosts with the police department there. And I think it just creates a good environment, a safe place for kids to come out and trick or treat at John West Park. But also a lot of community agencies, businesses, they can come out and network with the community as well. So we had a lot of great turnout there. It was another good event. Again, we had interactive stages set up for both ages. We were trying to get both the kids involved as well as adults, give them some time off that they could concentrate on actually giving us their feedback. And then finally in December, we had a final plan presentation and public comment period that was opened up after that. Our comp plan and cookies event was really about broadcasting the plan to the public, revealing what we had worked on so hard over the past year. And luckily, it was, again, another event where a lot of the public officials came out and supported. And so March 2020, once we had crossed all our T's, dotted our I's, we really had seamless adoption, which was great. So now we're really going to get into talking about some of these strategies and really just showing you guys examples of what we did. So first, we wanted to talk about strategies for engaging different age groups. I know this is a big issue for Southern Delaware in particular, and sometimes we focus on one extreme over the other, but this was really a great effort that went across the spectrum, trying to engage all users and interacting with how they look at the community, how they use our different facilities, and what kind of services they rely on. So part of that was using high tech and high touch methods. High-tech methods are like virtual workshops or the QR codes that we had embedded in things so that if younger people or anyone who just wanted to use technology was able to do so. We had the high-touch methods as well, like the physical surveys that people could come into town hall to grab, as well as sticker dot preference surveys that were really interactive and didn't require you to have technology at home to do. It was very simple kind of barriers to get involved with that. The interactive activities were really useful, I think, across the age groups. Everyone appreciated them. When you're asking to really envision what your community looks like, everyone has an answer for that, really. And so, yeah, our conversations were focused on that, on the community, not on general planning concepts, but what actually works here. So first example we've got is from the Cops and Goblins. This was something that Jill had painted. You want to talk about our little town?
Yeah. And we do have another picture of it, another slide, the full thing, but basically bought a giant canvas drop cloth and bought all the shades of green we could find and created sort of a blank map for the town of an imaginary town. And then found all kinds of little coloring sheets for children to sit down and color. And then we just gave them some tape and decided to watch them and see where they wanted to put the items on the map to see what their town would look like. And this worked out very well. The stations were set up around the coloring area. So the parents could work their way through our comp plan stations while the children were sitting in a central area coloring. So they could keep an eye on their children. The children were distracted and having fun. And it was a planning related activity. So, at the end, it was really cool to see all of those. There were vehicles, houses, churches, businesses, stop signs, even little pumpkins to see where those children placed those items on the map. So that was cool. And that top picture is my son, Jake. The bottom picture is my coworker, Jessica, with her daughter, Avery. So that was fun.
And here are some more pictures of other interactive, engaging kinds of things that we did. So again, you can see the sticker preference kind of chart on the right side. So this was a question about transportation facilities and what people wanted to see in town. We had heard over and over again that people had issues with traffic. Okay, we have an array of solutions within our planner toolbox to traffic, but we don't know which one is actually going to be most preferred by people in the area. So we took out some real examples. We tried to find pictures that were as close as possible to what it could actually look like in ocean view. So some of them were maybe in northern Delaware for like the transit stop. But it was very clear when we got the feedback that, that year-round transit and stations looking like that, like you might see in North Wilmington, were not something that people in Ocean View were looking for. But they were much more interested in the multi-use paths and the bicycle facilities. On the left, you can see one of the open-ended kind of question survey things that we use for feedback. So we had a lot of interactive charts that really prompted people on particular questions, but then we also always had something at the end. Keep giving us more comments if you have them. You want to have an open-ended kind of forum as well.
Yeah, and I just want to point out with this, we had snacks and drinks available, and then you'll see Jake again there at the bottom, but we were stationed near town hall, but also near the playground. So we wanted parents to be able to filter on over with their children. So we also had snacks and juice boxes available for children. The small thing that made a big difference, I think, in allowing the parents to be able to kind of stick around and participate. So something to think about.
Definitely. When we mention age groups, we don't just mean 65 plus. We don't mean under 18, but like Jill's saying, that missing middle as well. Parents that are sometimes strapped too much to be able to come to public meetings. Here are a couple other examples. This was the Cops and Goblins event. Again, you can see we had some events set up that the kids were able to interact with. This was asking for their opinions on naming a town center. So there was also kind of an educational component to it as well. You know, whenever kids came up and if they were of age, we explained to them what different planning concepts were and how a business improvement district might differ from like a town center, for example.
And I just have to say that top picture with Savannah. That's exactly what she was just talking about. That was the coolest thing to hear Savannah talking to the kids about planning. And she took it so seriously, and the kids were really into it. So that's got to be one of my favorite pictures of the whole comp plan. Really, that's cool.
And there's some pictures of those, what they actually colored. I mean, they actually did a really great job of putting things where they belonged and what they imagined a town, you know, their dream town to look like.
Exactly.
Joe, I have to ask a question real quick.
Sure.
On the board you painted, was that supposed to be modeled after the town, or was it?
No, it was just totally fictional.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But in the picture at the bottom, you'll see that's our chief of police, Kenneth McLaughlin, in the midst of all of the children right before the costume contest judging. So you can see just how packed that area was. The entire John West Park is just flooded with people at this time. So this was an incredible opportunity to get feedback. It's a top-notch event and just a lot of fun. So we were thrilled to be able to be there at that event. It worked out very well.
Yep. So strategies when dealing with limited resources. Again, we're talking in the context of a small town, and once again, using those high touch and high tech engagement strategies can sound like something that might be expensive, but as we go through the examples, we've shown you it's really not necessarily. With the high tech, now we're all using virtual forums to host our meetings, but just by hosting, we use Google Forms actually to complete our survey and to get all the data feedback easy for us to work with. But by hosting that survey online and keeping it open for at least 6 weeks really helped us to expand our engagement efforts. You know, if you have residents that go out of town during certain time periods of the year, they were still able to get their newsletter, get the link to that survey and complete it. We utilized town events. Again, we weren't, you know, we had a great staff from the town that we were able to rely on for support. They certainly did not hire consultants to do all of their work for them, to provide staffing at all of the events. So we had to rely upon those opportunities that maybe people were going to be out there already. But also it was great for us to not have to do extra advertising, you know, not have to add on extra costs for anything that you possibly can, and really utilize that audience as well. And then finally, leaning into your, oh yeah, sorry, Jill.
I was going to say, I think the only event that we sort of created that wasn't already in existence was the comp plan and cookies event, which you'll see. But for the most part, these were already pre-planned events. So, you know, it wasn't an awful lot to ask to put things together. And we had, you saw the picture with Jessica and her daughter. And then a previous slide, Susie, you know, we had some of my coworkers really step up to the plate and, you know, participate. So it helped. It certainly helped, and budget-wise particularly. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, you're good. And they told their neighbors and friends to come out too. So again, it all just helped. And that, yeah, leaning on into your staff for local knowledge as well. They knew what events in town actually bring out people. You know, I had no idea what Cops and Goblins is. So relying on your staff to know what events are popular in your community, what types of questions people are really in tune to and looking to give their feedback on. And yeah, lean on your staff, totally. These are some of those low cost kind of things that we utilize, but were successful for us. At our first public workshop, we created a passport. we gave this to everyone, and on the back side of it, it had a few boxes. To each station, you got either a sticker or a signature from the station master, the person running that kind of concept area. And then once you had completed an entire passport, you dropped it off for a contest. We raffled off some local gift cards to restaurants within Ocean View. And so that was really popular. And then a nice way for us to feature local businesses as well. You know, throughout the process, again, it just wasn't planning focused, it was community focused. And then that is the image of this postcard sign that we kind of printed and put it around town so that people could actually follow the link and complete the online survey. And Jill, you want to talk a little bit about the comp plan and cookies event that the staff helped out with and local people?
Yeah, comp plan and cookies, that was fun. We had gotten to a place where we had a draft and we were excited. And we had sort of rallied together to talk about, you know, the path forward, and decided that we, again, kind of wanted to do a little bit extra and have a big reveal of our draft and take the opportunity to get some more public feedback. This was a very the timing here was crucial because, you know, right before the holidays, we were able to get people in before a lot of our population took off for Florida or to go visit family. So we captured everyone at a good time. We had a packed house. We served cookies, hot chocolate. We had the wife of one of our councilmen. She did a cookie decorating station for us. We advertised this in the local paper and on Facebook. We also had available coloring sheets and activities for children. We unfortunately did not have any children participate, but we did have it available, and we advertised it that way. So again, that theme of being able to bring in the parents and their children and having those opportunities was, I think, important. Let's see. There's a picture of our full house there, and Ken presenting.
Yep. So yeah, Jill said we had a great turnout, and again, our last concept, but all of these really tied together so closely, is strategies for instilling early elected official buy-in. You know, I've done a few different comprehensive plans and worked with a number of municipalities, counties, and it can be a real headache when at the end, one body is maybe responsible for putting the comprehensive plan together, but another body is responsible for adopting it. And if the two aren't in clear communication with each other, you know, it can just add months to the process, really, to get those issues ironed out. So we didn't have that, and that's because we communicated with them the importance of long-term planning. We engaged them from the beginning, and really we met them where they were. As we stated, you know, we had that first event at Election Day where we knew all of those officials, the candidates would be the people that would be elected to probably be approving this, you know, a year later down the road. We were already getting in and having conversations with them. And again, just a couple more pictures of that event, the comp plan and cookies, where we went out and we really, this was 3 months before the adoption, but we really went into detail at this meeting about everything that the plan had said. And this was when we were getting that OSPC approval taken care of on the state level. Because we had already done pre-plus, we really didn't foresee there would be much feedback from the state or any issues. This is just a board of what those explanations, planning concepts are. And again, paramount to educating them the importance of long-term planning and what a comprehensive plan really does for your community. So as we finally just wrap up the last couple slides, Jill is just going to bring it back to talk about, you know, the success and what that helped do for the town of Ocean View.
Yeah, so we were super excited to receive 2 honors, which you see on the screen there. The first, we took the time last year during crazy budget season, and I have to give mad props to Ken Semino and Carol Hauk on this one, because they really took the time to help get this application together for the Small Town and Rural Planning Award, the STAR Award. I've got the application here. It's as thick as our comp plan. So we took the time to put that together, and we won. So we're featured here in their fall newsletter. So you see a lot of the comp plan and cookies stuff there. And then in November, we were super excited to be awarded the Outstanding Planning Project for the Delaware chapter of the American Planning Association. So here we are. There's Mayor John Reddington and Josh Thomas, who is presenting us the award with our team. Carol Hauk, me, and you see Ken Semino there too. So moving forward, of course, it's probably no surprise that we've hit the ground running, pretty literally. We have a number of sidewalk projects being planned. We installed experimental green pavement markings for bicycle lanes, which we are going to continue to study. DelDOT allowed us to install those on Route 26. We've got any number of fun events planned. I mentioned that our police department is now nationally accredited. Bocce ball courts for Special Olympics are being installed in the park as we speak. Just a number of really phenomenal projects that have that we spelled out in the plan, and they're moving on. Some a little bit of slowdown with COVID, but I think we fared pretty well because we had a good plan. We did have a path forward, and some hiccups there with some timing, but we're still getting things done, and we're really proud of it.
All right, so that is what Jill and I had prepared for you guys today. We left a couple questions here at the end if we want to start with them to have conversation. I don't know, Sean, did any questions come in?
We did. We have not gotten any questions in the chat, but I would just reemphasize to folks or plug something in the chat. If you have questions, please do plug them into the question and answers box, and we will get to them. But since we don't have any in there right now, I guess we'll start with these. So I guess to you, I'll go to you first, Jill. How does the town define or measure or assess, I guess, the success of this plan?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the awards are nice, but at the end of the day, if what you're doing isn't meaningful, do they really matter? No. The beautiful part of our plan is we truly believe in it, and we're continuing to work it. We didn't just sit it on a shelf. So I think as you start to see, like, for example, those green pavement markings for the bicycle lanes, if we start to see that that's cutting down on, injury out there for bicyclists, I mean, that's measurable. And that's something to be proud of, and it's meaningful. If we see more people being able to enjoy the park, moving here and loving where they live and being proud of that, I mean, those are all things that, to me, mean that this was a success,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I guess, Savannah, if you want to take the second question, what strategies from this process will you take to apply to other projects in your work?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, there have been a number of comprehensive plans that I've started working on since then, in addition to other projects, whether they be smaller or larger scale. But I think really the biggest takeaway for me has been the relying on the staff kind of portion. And, I don't know that every situation or circumstance will turn out to be as good of a partnership that we had, but I think the knowledge that you have locally is really, it's hard to put a value on that. is really invaluable, and especially for consultants that have to come in and work with multiple different agencies. You work with multiple towns. There's no way that you can have that history, that knowledge that the people that are living in your community, or even if they're living just outside of it, they're attending community events and they're really in tune to what those small issues are.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I did think of one kind of tough question for both of you. It'd probably be a little bit tougher for Jill, because you've both mentioned to me previously that a big part of the success of the plan is that the town was kind of fully bought into the process, fully brought into putting a lot of effort into public engagement strategy and putting together a good plan from the very beginning. It seems like, you had all the support for, both the time and resources that went into everything, which I think is critical. You frankly, in my experience, you don't get that from most towns in the state. And it's to your credit that you took advantage of that and did everything like great, but I guess I'm curious in terms of understanding, who or what do you think was the driving force behind that? And I guess more specifically, was it kind of more on the town manager end, elected officials end, or was it just sort of like the town collectively was sort of ready to tackle this? And I guess if both of you want to answer that from your perspective.
Yeah, certainly a little bit of all of that and a lot of all of that. And I know for me personally, I was super fortunate to have a town manager and a planning director that trusted me to do things, and I'm eternally grateful for that they looked for ideas, that it wasn't just what they wanted. They really listened to town staff and trusted us. That was huge. That was huge. And I think having that energy and that passion, it's contagious. So your council starts to see that you're really into this, you mean it. And people can sense that. I mean, you get what you put into things. The energy was there. And I think it was kind of hard to ignore sometimes. We were very fortunate. We really were, from start to finish. So I'm thankful for that. All along the way. Planning commission, town solicitor, everybody was super supportive of this process. And I know not everybody's that lucky, but I think just from the very beginning, our energy was there, our positive attitude was there, and I think it showed.
But in terms of like the strategy and thinking ahead and planning and the ideas, was a lot of that like coming from you and like kind of working with Savannah?
Yeah.
Take credit, guys.
No, I think I really drove a lot of the strategy part of it.
Yeah.
But in partnership with, Jill and Ken and Carol, knowing what events were out there, because I could tell them we need to go out and we need to engage in 3 different ways. But they knew their people and they knew the residents and what ways they would actually engage. So really it was both of us. And the one thing I would add to what Jill was saying, the thing that everyone had was curiosity. No one came in with the answers or knowing knowledge. Everyone was able to check their bias or anything at the door and say, we don't know, but we're all curious about finding out this particular information. So let's all go explore together.
Great.
Yeah.
Also, kind of a little bit less related to the plan specifically, I guess, but just kind of curious, you had mentioned and some of the pictures highlighted the historic district of the town. Just curious to understand where that is. Is it kind of like along the Central Ave corridor where the Historical Society building is?
Yeah, that is the central area there. The older homes that extend pretty much the length of Central on that side. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I wasn't aware of that. So I'll definitely check it out next time I'm there. There are a couple pictures of like the old historic post office. I don't know if that's original or not, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they the Historical Society, and they've sort of worked hard to kind of rebrand themselves too into the Coastal Towns Historic Village. They've been phenomenal. They just recently completed the Hall store, which is going to serve as their museum, and they're going to offer tours. There was a wonderful ribbon cutting there at our holiday event. So they're passionate, and they are bringing the Chicken Festival to the park.
That's great. You jumped ahead to my next question. What's the Chicken Festival?
So that's an exciting partnership. Come check out the Chicken Festival. It'll be neat.
And what is that? When is it and all?
I believe it's May 21st. I have to check the date. But you can check out our Facebook page and the Coastal Towns Historic Village page for more information. But that's going to be fun. That's going to be a really neat way to honor our past, which of course is the boiler industry with chickens here in Ocean View in Sussex County, and have a lot of fun and bring the kids out and, really appreciate our history.
And another kind of outcome of the comp plan, we didn't specifically say let's have a chicken day, but placemaking, right? And doing more, events on the history.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. I noticed that. I was going to ask you what upcoming events you have in town, but I did notice the chicken day, and actually, like that time of year is pretty good too, because it's kind of like just the beginning of something, not quite summer, but beginning of summer. It's kind of an interesting time to engage with people and get people out. So it looks like a fun event.
And our movie theme nights are going to be this summer, so check out those too. Those are always super unique, and not just sitting there watching movies.
That's great, and that's in the same park next to okay,
Don West Park.
Got it. Okay. All right, great. Well, we don't have questions in the Q&A, but I could sit here and ask more questions, but I think we could probably wrap it up and give people a few minutes back of their day. We're almost at time anyway. So thank you both. I mean, this is awesome. It's a great project. It's a great plan to point, as an example for other towns throughout the state to kind of model after, I think. And it's great. It's great to hear that you two really were the driving force behind it, and I think there's a lot to think about, a lot of lessons to be learned, from the effort you put in. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Hope it helps somebody else out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.